Hey everyone, Mature Simmer here. Brr, it's cold out here. So winter's come to hilly Seneca, and I know from checking my silos as I was walking around before, I am short of supplies. So I am going to go ahead and top off the lime for certain, because we're only down to 11,000. I'm trying to see, because the other one is herbicide. So that's a tanker. And then, yeah, maybe we'll do some seeds as well. Let me just make sure that's seeds, yes. Sometimes I read the symbols wrong, and I've had situations, if you've seen some of the previous videos, where I don't have enough room in my silo for what I'm trying to do. Alright, so we've got a couple liquid things. I don't know that I need any more liquid fert. So yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and get some lime done this morning and get that packed away. I believe that's my truck. I've got a lot of stuff down here at the yard. It's getting a little busy with little map dots. Alright, gotta come around the other way. I was going to back into that, but that would not work very well. So, haven't really thought much about the farm beyond that as far as what next year will look like. It's not letting me get out of the truck. Why not? That's not good. Guess let me tab. It's not letting me get out there either. It's my... Sorry, I'm going to check my keyboard mapping. Enter vehicle is there. A weird glitch that we have sometimes is the guidance steering, or the GPS mod, will sometimes basically take over everything. I mean, it's not just the vehicle. I mean, it obviously is, because I was just trying to get out of the vehicle. Gotta go the other way to get to the store. So let me circle around here. Whoops, there's a pole there. I have wrapped one of these around a pole before, and it is not fun. Especially if you really wrap it around at high speed and it really folds around the pole at the brake, then you can't do anything. So let's avoid that. How about that? Alright, I'm going to head up to the main road, just because it's a little bit wider. And here in the early morning darkness this winter, it's always best to drive where I've got a little more leeway for error. Just glad we don't have any snow here on the ground. That always makes things interesting. And in those cases, I probably honestly would have just postponed going to get things till the spring, because in a lot of cases here on spring 1, the ground is still frozen and can't be worked that first day, or the temperature's just not high enough. It's not at the 41, 43 degrees that we need for planting. There's that harvester that I leased that we never used. Completely forgot about that. I'm pretty sure today is the day that they'll come get it, so I'm sure it'll be gone shortly. Without precision farming, the game will show you on the map, and basically every 3 years you have to lime your fields, so you'll get lime required. But with precision farming on, if you go to the soil composition, these C precision farming, the blue is the fertilizer and this is the lime. So it won't show you anything. And then on precision farming, you really only see lime by interpreting the map, basically knowing that you're normally in some sort of green position, or a blue position in some cases, because it's usually up here around 6.5, 7, depending on soil type. So I think the best I'm going to be able to do, and maybe when I drive back here I'll wander out onto 97, is look at my field info and determine what it tells me the pH level is at, because I think it's going to say okay. And what I don't know and don't understand, and I'm not honestly sure how I would determine it, is there a yield hit just in the first year if the lime is low? But I don't necessarily, if I don't need to, want to be running around and liming my fields every year just because it's an extra activity that I need to do that still takes time regardless of what I need to do. So let's spin around here and get this back trailer filled with lime. Oh, goodness. I'll tell you, the bearings are greased very well on all the vehicles in FSN because they will just roll right past anything, even though you take your foot off the accelerator. So I'm constantly finding myself, again, throwing EV into reverse to just basically stop. And that is why, if you watch other videos where I don't have EV, I look like I don't know how to drive, because I spend 90% of my farming simulator time here in FSN with the EV mod on, and I'm used to that being the way I drive. So I'm sitting there pounding on the spacebar wondering why the truck is careening off a cliff. But yeah, my wish list for Christmas for mods for FS22 is very short. If I could get guidance steering, GPS, and EV, I think I'd actually be relatively functional in FS22. I'd still obviously also love equipment mods and map mods to just have things to try that are outside the base game maps, but as far as gameplay and being able to actually spend time in FS22 and not dislike my experience, EV and GPS, that would do it for me as a substantial improvement. Now, don't get me wrong, I'd also love auto drive and course play at some point for any kind of lengthy single players that I might do on other maps and so forth, but I'm not going to be greedy for Christmas. If I could, in the next 2 weeks, get those, I would consider it a wonderful, wonderful thing. So I'm going to get 2 loads of lime here, and that will, in essence, top me off for the silo for lime in what I have space for. Because I had about, let me double check that, because I might not actually be able to get 2 loads in. I really should have come in at a different angle. I'm probably just going to end up spinning around, because I don't know that this is going to get me to a trigger at this point, the way I came in. Let's see. Right about here? Yep, okay. So we got lucky. The other thing I found with these silos, which is kind of interesting, is I don't necessarily need to dump in the correct pit for the given silo. In this case, I am by my lime silo and dumping lime in, but as long as it's basically a solid silo, so I found that I'm able to dump pretty much anything into the seeds up there, and it will work. Now I'm thinking this is going to pull the pup too far away. Whoops, I am getting lucky today, so I will count my blessings and get that dropped. So anyway, I was going to go look at the lime. I'm going to look at the field too. I forgot about that. Oh yeah, so another 80,000 is going to get me to 170. That's right, we had only 11,000 in here. Somehow I was thinking we had 40, but that's the other FERT. See, pH value is saying good. It's not saying perfect. So what I don't understand is what that really does as an impact to my crop performance. if I take any kind of a hit or not, or am I okay until it says bad, which I think it still does on the 3-year cycle. So when I leased those fields from Sears earlier, that was one of the things I had to do before I threw the cotton on the fields, was lime them, because he had gone 3 years without lime. At this point, with the way the FSN auction house works, seems to be every 2 to 3 days something else will come up for auction. I'm still secretly happy that nothing has come up in the corner of my map. So while I think at least 12 to 15 parcels have appeared since I bought 8586, none of them have been anywhere near me, so there's been zero temptation to try to add on more. And if I'm being honest at this point, I do think I'm maxed out in what I can actually spend time on and comfortably run myself. It would just be more, hey, I've got this gap in my fields with 88 and 89. I think those are the field numbers. Might be 87 and 88, but there's a couple fields in the center across the street from my home parcel that initially were in my thoughts to go ahead and purchase. So there's that nagging, oh, but you wanted those, but I really won't be able to work them. And at this point, I wouldn't sell off like 85, 86, because I went ahead and cleared the area in the forest to put up the silos. That's working pretty well. So it would just become a situation of, will I own them, just to give me some options. But the reality will likely become that I won't farm them all every year. I would have to not farm them every year to not create an insane amount of stress for myself. But I know myself, and I think if I have them, I'm going to press myself to utilize it, because otherwise, why did I pay for them? I'm wasting money letting them sit around. So that's the tug of war I'm facing when those come up, because they're not that big. I think they're like 25 to 30 acres each. So what that typically translates into with the equipment I have is I can plant and fertilize pretty quickly. I mean, we're talking under an hour for each of those activities for a field that size. It's the harvesting that basically would add 2 hours of harvesting for each of the fields. An hour and a half to 2 hours on top of everything we've got. So as you saw with the oat harvest, you know, I'm bucking up against 10 hours if I'm running all the fields at once. And I can try to spread things out across multiple days, but as you've seen on this map with this geo, it's very rare that we have a dry autumn where I can harvest for all 3 days, and then I run the risk of not being able to get the crop off the field because it's wet. So it's a tough one. I'm not sure what to do there. Because there is the situation, like if I was to say, I'm going to do nothing in Farming Simulator other than play on my FSN farm, I could add those fields. I'd be comfortable doing that. But the thing that keeps me from doing that is wanting to have some time to do other things when I play FS. Right now it's, continue to try things in FS22 as new mods come out and just wait for things there. But once that is in good shape, where I have like an EV mod and a GPS mod and some maps start coming out, I'll likely be doing what I did in FS19, is at times like this for the 2 or 3 days when nothing's happening, I would go in and do single player games on FS19 maps. And that was before I was really actively working on sharing what I'm doing in the channel. But those would, in essence, at least some of them, would become some sort of Let's Play versions. which I certainly would enjoy doing. But I think if I added those fields and spent that much time in FSN during the 9 days when in theory there's things to do here because it's not winter and snow on the ground, I might feel a little burned out and be like, all right, I want a couple days away from Farming Simulator because I've just had so much of it. Because I definitely also will at times still jump in after I've spent some time in FSN, jump in on a server. Now I'm delivering to my regular silo, and with the way I have the silo put in, it would be very difficult for me to get the right angle. So I'm not going to create a problem for myself and then be frustrated. I'll come in the way I should have, I just wasn't thinking. So we'll see when it gives us the trigger. Let's get the right see, I'm not even over a solid silo. I'm sitting here at the liquid fert silo, but it's letting me dump into it, and we'll take the lime. And, you know, again, the counter, you can see the lime counter. It's the one on the far right at the top is ticking up. So it's not like it's putting it in the wrong silo. So I do like that, because it just gives me a little bit more option for maneuver, because obviously if I had to pull up to the grate of the last one there by the root crop cellar, that would be a challenge. Whoops. Wrong key. Alright. So I'm going to go ahead and let me just make sure. That's right, I could do... Just looking at my clock. Yeah, I've got a little bit of time. I'm going to go run and get some seed. Now I have to be careful. Well, I guess I don't have to be careful. I don't quite have enough room in the silo to get 80,000 in seeds, because we're at 120,000 and change. But having that little bit in the trailer isn't going to be the end of the world, because obviously I'm going to need to plant things, and I'll immediately be able to get it out of the truck, and I won't need this truck. So from a finance standpoint on those silos, they're 25,000 a piece. So with 5 of them, it's not really that bad. It's 125,000, and it saves me having to make these trips constantly throughout the year, because otherwise, when I'm in the throes of working quickly, or really more just consumed in, I've got 6 hours of planting, I'm not suddenly sitting there saying, oh, I'm out of seeds, I need to go run a truck to get seeds. And yeah, it's 5 to 10 minutes, but it just feels extremely disruptive in the middle of the work. I have little use for money other than here in the farm. The only reason I don't move everything in here right now is at some point we're going to move to an FS22 server. We're not going to want to play FS19 forever. And once we feel FS22 is playable in the multiplayer FSN universe, in the way we like to play, the FMs here on this server are going to want to make this an FS22 server, or however that process is going to work. And therefore, just rather than having some situation where maybe I can't get the money, or again, it's going to take some time, because right now I think, if I recall reading the notes, and I'll be honest, I'm not paying perfect attention to all the messages coming out about the FS22 servers, because it's just not an area I'm worried about at this point, because I'm not on them or planning to move to them anytime soon. But I still believe funds transfers are not working and not set up. So basically you get the money you get the first time they set you up, and then you can't add any more money in, so you have to function for some period of time with whatever money you have. And if I were, say, to put it all in here, and then in the movement and the timing, it was like, well, your funds didn't get out of the FS19 server in time to get you set up in the FS22 server, and then I might suddenly have a funds problem and not have a way to get funds in there. So right now I don't need $4 million in here. So I'm just letting it sit and make a little bit of interest in the bank accounts in the FSN banking community. Alright, so we'll do, whoops, I didn't pick the front trailer. Usually when I'm driving, I'll flip up to the front trailer just so I can, again, pull in and have it work. So this will be it for today. So I'm going to go ahead and get this dumped. And then I guess I'll leave the truck here, because driving it back down and then driving it up for what honestly I think is going to be a couple hundred liters of seed is ridiculous. So even though last time leaving a truck here got me in trouble when I had my tanker wrapped around the root crop, I should be okay here. Because at best I'll be planting, and so the field next to me will be planted, but I can certainly drive over it with the truck. So there you go, 326 liters of seed, so really close. So I'm going to go ahead and shut off my engine, and we'll go ahead and say we're done. So I will see you next time.